Silence is a weapon more dangerous than the sword, for it cuts without striking and wounds without being seen. Men are slaves to their tongues, compelled to speak even when words betray their secrets. The crowd delights in chatter, thinking themselves wise because they fill the air with noise, yet in their haste to be heard they reveal more than they intend. The man who can remain silent, who can observe while others unravel themselves, holds an advantage that cannot be easily measured. Silence is not the absence of speech, but the mastery of it, the ability to choose when words are useful and when they are poison. The intelligent man learns early that most men cannot resist the temptation of speech. They are proud of their opinions, eager to display knowledge, and impatient to correct others. In this vanity lies their downfall, for as they seek to impress, they expose their fears, their desires, and the frailty of their reasoning. Silence, when employed wisely, exploits this hidden vice. By withholding words, one becomes a mirror in which others see only themselves. They interpret silence as agreement, respect, or intimidation, and in their eagerness to define it, they betray their position. In the councils of power, silence is the shield of the cunning. The courtier who speaks little is feared more than the one who boasts of his wisdom. His silence suggests depth, calculation, and strength, even if none exists. Men imagine hidden meaning in his restraint, attributing to him designs more profound than his own. Thus, he gains a reputation greater than that of the talkative, for men trust more in what they do not know than in what is plainly declared. To say nothing is to allow others to shape an image of you that serves your interest, while speaking too much fixes you in the prison of your own words. The power of silence also lies in timing. When men expect speech and are denied it, they become restless. Their minds struggle to interpret the void, filling it with fear or hope according to their disposition. The silent man dictates the pace of the encounter, forcing others to reveal more than they intended, to negotiate against themselves, or to confess hidden truths to break the tension. The art of silence is therefore not mere restraint, but an active strategy of domination, where words withheld command more weight than words spoken. Consider also that silence is the companion of observation. While others are busy displaying their thoughts, the silent man gathers knowledge. He sees the impatience in their gestures, hears the contradictions in their claims, and notes the weakness they try to conceal. Each word uttered by others becomes a stone in the fortress of his advantage. When the time comes to speak, his words are few, but they strike with the force of accumulated insight. Men will marvel at his foresight, not realizing that his wisdom is built upon the folly they themselves revealed in their eagerness to speak. Yet silence must not be mistaken for passivity. The man who is always silent risks appearing timid, and timidity invites contempt. Therefore, silence must be balanced with rare and decisive words, sharpened like a blade. When the silent man finally speaks, his words must appear deliberate and inevitable, as if born from deep reflection. In this way, they will carry greater authority than the endless chatter of others. The contrast between silence and speech magnifies the power of both, making each utterance echo in the minds of those who hear it. Silence also protects against flattery, for flattery feeds upon response. The flatterer casts his bait with words, hoping the target will nibble with vanity. But the man who meets praise with silence leaves the flatterer disarmed. He cannot measure success, nor does he know whether his words have gained favor. Thus the silent man remains free from the chains that bind weaker souls who are enslaved by their hunger for approval. In this way, silence is not only a weapon against enemies, but also armor against deception. Above all, the wise understand that silence cannot be taken back, while words once spoken cannot be recalled. A careless word may turn friend into rival, expose a scheme before it ripens, or give an enemy the weapon he seeks. Silence, on the other hand, offers no weapon to the adversary. It is a fortress with no gates, a river that flows without sound, a presence that cannot be trapped. In the game of power, where trust is scarce and every alliance uncertain, silence is the only ally who never betrays. Power does not belong to the one who is strongest in truth, but to the one who is most skilled in appearance. Men are moved not by reality, but by the illusions they accept as reality, and he who knows how to dress his weakness in the garments of strength will command even those who surpass him. It is not necessary to be virtuous, only to appear so; not necessary to be wise, only to appear as though wisdom guides every step. Men look with their eyes more than they judge with their minds, and thus their trust is given to what can be seen, not to what can be proven. This is the hidden vice of mankind, their dependence on the surface rather than the substance, and it is here that the cunning man finds his advantage. To master appearances is to understand that the world is a theater. Men play roles, wear masks, and seek approval from their audience. Few have the strength to step beyond this performance, for most are entranced by it. The ruler, the courtier, or even the ordinary man who knows how to wear the right mask at the right time commands the stage, while others stumble in their honesty. A man who openly displays his nature is vulnerable, for his enemies see his heart exposed. But a man who conceals his nature and projects only what serves his purpose becomes untouchable. The ability to appear kind while harboring ambition, to seem ignorant while plotting victory, or to feign weakness while preparing for domination. These are the true arts of power. Men despise being deceived, yet they yearn to be deceived. They want leaders who appear just, even if their justice is only a cloak. They want allies who seem loyal, even if loyalty is only a mask. They want companions who appear humble, even if humility hides calculation. The wise man exploits this contradiction, for he knows that men judge more readily by what they wish to see than by what truly is. By giving them the appearance of what they desire, he gains their trust, their obedience, and even their admiration, while he secretly advances his own designs. The mastery of appearances also demands an understanding of timing. Appearances must be shaped not only in form but in moment. A show of humility at the beginning disarms envy, while a show of confidence at the end secures authority. To appear generous after victory is to win hearts, while to appear merciful after punishment is to soften fear into loyalty. It is not the reality of generosity or mercy that matters, but the well-staged appearance of them, employed only when it strengthens position. In this way, appearances are not ornaments but weapons, sharpened and wielded with precision. Consider also that appearance is a shield against suspicion. A man who appears harmless is seldom attacked, while one who appears reckless is quickly opposed. Thus, the intelligent man often cloaks his true nature beneath a disguise that disarms his rivals. He may seem indecisive while quietly consolidating power, or seem distracted while carefully calculating each move. The enemy, deceived by what he sees, strikes prematurely or lowers his guard, granting victory to the one who masters the mask. But the art of appearance requires balance, for appearances that are too perfect arouse doubt. To seem always virtuous invites suspicion, for men know that none are flawless. Therefore, the wise will permit small flaws, controlled weaknesses, and chosen mistakes, so that their greater deceptions appear natural. A feigned error can conceal a true design, and a staged vulnerability can lure the enemy into false confidence. The most skilled deceivers are those who allow themselves to appear human, for their humanity conceals their strategy. Even among friends and allies, mastery of appearances is indispensable. Trust is a fragile bond, easily broken by honesty. If men knew the full depth of one's ambition, they would fear it. If they knew the true limits of one's power, they would exploit it. Therefore, it is safer to let allies see only what keeps them at ease. Tempered appearance that hides the full truth. The wise man knows that even friendship is a stage, where each gesture must be measured and each expression calculated. At its highest level, mastery of appearances is not simply deception, but creation. The man who understands appearances does not merely conceal truth, but shapes reality itself, for men act according to the illusions they believe. If they believe him powerful, he becomes powerful, for they obey him. If they believe him virtuous, he becomes virtuous in their eyes. Even if vice directs his hand, appearance does not only mask reality, it becomes reality. For men live more in their perceptions than in the truth that lies beneath them. The greatest advantage a man can possess is not strength of arm nor wealth of treasure, but the ability to see into the hearts of men. To read human nature is to hold the key to their desires, fears, and weaknesses, for men reveal more through their conduct than they intend. They imagine themselves mysterious, yet they are transparent to the trained eye. Their gestures betray impatience, their eyes betray envy, their tone betrays insecurity. The crowd believes it is difficult to understand a man, but the one who studies human nature knows that most men are governed by the same passions repeated endlessly: ambition, greed, vanity, fear, and the hunger for approval. To know these is to predict action. To exploit them is to command power. Every man has within him a hidden vice, an impulse he cannot resist. For one, it is the thirst for honor; for another, the lust for wealth; for another, the need to be praised. The wise man observes quietly and discovers which string moves each soul. Once it is found, he pulls it as a musician pulls the strings of an instrument, making the other play the tune he desires. Men think they act freely, but in truth, they are guided by their passions, and he who reads them holds the leash. What others call manipulation is merely the art of exploiting what already governs their nature. It is necessary to understand that men are seldom rational. They justify their choices with reason after desire has already commanded them. Therefore, the skilled observer must look not at what men say, but at what they pursue when no eyes are upon them. Words are often masks, but habits and desires are truth. A man who speaks endlessly of loyalty may be secretly plotting betrayal, but the one who watches where he spends his time and with whom he whispers will see his true inclination. In this way, human nature is not read in speech but in patterns, and the wise man traces those patterns until they reveal the map of the heart. Reading human nature also means understanding how men differ in appearance yet remain alike in essence. One man may dress his greed in the robes of piety, another may disguise his ambition in gestures of humility, but the root is the same. He who sees beyond the mask perceives the common springs of action. Men desire security, they desire recognition, and they desire advancement above others. Their methods may differ, but their hearts are tied to these desires like dogs to their chains. This knowledge allows the cunning man to predict not only what a single person will do, but what the multitude will demand when faced with fear or temptation. Consider how fear shapes men more than reason. A man may claim courage, yet when danger comes, he will cling to safety like a child. Others claim generosity, yet when scarcity strikes, they clutch their wealth more tightly than before. Thus, to test men is the surest way to know them. Appearances and words may deceive, but when circumstances apply pressure, the true nature is revealed. The wise ruler or schemer creates conditions where the hidden vices of men are forced into the open, and once revealed, they can be used. The art of reading human nature is incomplete without exploiting vanity. For vanity is the chain upon which most men are bound. Even the proudest warrior wishes to be admired. Even the most cunning statesman longs to be seen as wise. Praise is the mirror in which men see themselves glorified. And to withhold it is to starve them, while to give it is to bind them. He who understands this weakness can enslave others without their knowledge, for they mistake their servitude for triumph. In pleasing their vanity, they surrender their judgment, and in surrendering judgment, they yield control. Yet one must not underestimate the usefulness of observing not only individuals but also crowds. The crowd is more foolish than the man, for it magnifies his passions and strips away restraint. The multitude is easily swayed by appearances, by rumors, by fear of enemies, and by promises of gain. The wise man who reads the multitude knows when to inspire terror, when to offer hope, and when to flatter their pride. To control the passions of the crowd is to wield power greater than any sword, for the crowd can overthrow thrones and elevate fools to glory, but only because it follows its nature blindly. To read human nature, then, is not merely to understand men, but to govern them. It is to see the springs that drive them forward, and to place one's hand upon those springs. It is to let others believe they are acting freely, while in truth, they are guided like horses led by the reins. The world belongs not to those who trust in men's words, but to those who understand their hidden vices and exploit them. Without mercy, men are creatures of impulse. They rush to satisfy desire. They leap to seize opportunity, and in their haste they expose themselves. Few have the discipline to wait, for waiting demands mastery of self, and mastery of self is rarer than mastery of others. It is in this weakness that the patient man finds his strength. Calculated patience is not idleness, but a weapon sharpened by time. It is the art of allowing others to act first, to reveal their plans, to exhaust their energy, while one remains still, concealed, and deliberate. When the moment of strike finally arrives, the patient man does not strike blindly, but with knowledge and certainty, securing victory, while others stumble in confusion. The hidden vice of men is their inability to endure silence, emptiness, or delay. They believe that movement is power, that constant action is progress. Yet the one who knows how to wait exposes this folly. Men betray their intentions because they cannot sit in uncertainty. They confess their fears because they cannot endure silence. The patient man allows time to strip away disguises. For given enough days, men reveal their weakness. Promises are broken, alliances erode, and hidden ambitions surface. What seemed concealed becomes plain, not because of force, but because of time itself. Patience thus becomes the silent interrogator, extracting truths that no demand could compel. Patience is not passive endurance, but calculated control. To wait without purpose is to waste life, but to wait with intention is to prepare the field of victory. The hunter does not chase his prey recklessly through the forest, for in running he would lose strength and reveal his position. Instead, he lies hidden, studying the movements of the animal, knowing the moment will come when the prey draws near of its own accord. So too must the wise man treat ambition and power. He lets others race toward glory, stumble in their haste, and fall prey to their own exhaustion, while he remains still, ready to claim what they have abandoned. Consider also the power of timing. A single act, delayed until the right hour, achieves more than 100 acts performed in haste. The patient man allows his rivals to waste their strength building fortresses, forming alliances, and proclaiming their victories, only to strike when fatigue has dulled their vigilance. Victory then appears effortless, as though fortune itself favored him, when in truth it was patience that crafted the illusion of destiny. The impatient man seizes the fruit before it ripens and finds it bitter. The patient man waits for its ripening and enjoys its sweetness without effort. Patience also creates fear in others, for men do not understand restraint. When faced with an adversary who waits, who does not react to provocation, who withholds his hand when expected to strike, they grow uneasy. They invent explanations for his silence, imagining strategies more dangerous than reality. Their own impatience drives them to act rashly, and in their desperation they destroy themselves. Thus patience is not only a shield, but also a weapon, for it compels others to defeat themselves without one lifting a sword. The wise man knows that opportunities appear in cycles, like seasons. To act in winter is folly, for the ground is frozen and yields nothing. To wait for spring is wisdom, for only then can seeds grow. The impatient man demands harvest in every season, and in his blindness he destroys his own future. The patient man, however, knows that each season has its use: the time to sow, the time to grow, the time to reap, and the time to rest. By aligning action with the rhythm of time, he achieves what others cannot. This alignment is not luck, but judgment sharpened by restraint. But calculated patience must not be confused with cowardice. To wait endlessly without purpose is weakness, and weakness invites contempt. True patience is active, filled with silent preparation. While others waste themselves in useless effort, the patient man is gathering knowledge, building alliances, and sharpening his instruments of power. When he finally acts, it appears sudden and decisive, but it has been forged through long concealment. The world mistakes it for fortune, yet it is the harvest of patience. The exploitation of this hidden vice lies in knowing that most men cannot resist revealing themselves. They cannot wait for silence to pass, nor endure the pain of restraint. The cunning man who can wait, who can let days and years do his work, will always find advantage over the restless. For time is the servant of the patient, but the enemy of the hasty. And as men destroy themselves by rushing, the patient one stands ready, seizing the prize, when all others have lost the strength to claim it. There is no chain stronger than praise, for it binds even the proudest man more tightly than iron. Men who would resist threats, gold, or even the sword, often surrender willingly to flattery. To be told they are wise, courageous, or beloved intoxicates them, dulling judgment and clouding reason. This is the hidden vice of mankind, the hunger to be admired. It is a hunger so desperate that even the most cunning fall prey to it. For while they guard against deceit in money or power, they leave their hearts unguarded against words that feed their vanity. The man who is immune to flattery stands apart from the multitude, for he cannot be enslaved by sweet speech, nor led astray by the illusions of praise. Most men live not for truth but for appearance, and flattery provides the appearance of greatness. A ruler who is weak in judgment delights in being told he is feared. A soldier of little skill glories in being called brave. A scholar rejoices when his ignorance is cloaked in the words of wisdom. They do not ask whether these praises are true, because they are blinded by the desire for them to be true. The flatterer, knowing this, holds great power, for he supplies men with the illusions they crave. Yet the one who sees flattery for what it is, who receives it with silence or suspicion, robs the flatterer of his weapon. He becomes ungovernable by those who would seek to control him with false admiration. The danger of flattery lies not only in its deception, but in its effect upon action. A man intoxicated with praise begins to act as though the flattery were true. The weak king who is told he is strong grows arrogant and makes reckless wars. The foolish advisor who is told he is wise pushes his counsel with pride, leading to ruin. The vain general who is called invincible marches into traps. In this way, flattery does not simply deceive, it destroys. For it is not merely a lie spoken, but a lie believed, and once believed, it guides decisions with fatal consequence. To be immune to flattery is to possess an uncommon clarity. Such a man recognizes that praise often serves the interests of the speaker, not the one praised. He sees that words of admiration are seldom gifts, but bait. Just as hunters scatter grain to catch birds, so flatterers scatter praise to ensnare their victims. The man who is immune eats no such grain, and therefore he is never caught. He measures himself not by the songs of others, but by the results of his deeds. His victories, not their praises, confirm his worth. The immunity to flattery also grants the power to exploit those enslaved by it. For just as the cunning man resists being flattered, he may flatter others, knowing how easily they fall. A rival who craves admiration can be led into folly by feeding his vanity. A ruler who demands to be worshipped can be controlled by those who bow to him in public while despising him in private. A man who cannot live without constant praise is like a thirsty traveler in the desert. He will drink from any hand that offers water, even if it is poisoned. The wise who see this weakness use it without hesitation, for to resist flattery is strength, but to employ it against others is mastery. Consider how dangerous it is for rulers to indulge in flattery. Princes who surround themselves with sycophants hear only what pleases them, never what is true. They mistake adoration for loyalty, illusion for reality, and in this blindness they govern poorly, falling from power while their flatterers scatter like rats from a burning house. The ruler who rejects flattery, however, compels honesty, for his advisors know their words must carry weight beyond admiration. Thus his immunity becomes a shield against deception, and a mirror that reflects reality more faithfully than the empty praise of courtiers. But one must recognize that immunity to flattery requires strength of soul. For all men wish to be admired, and to resist this desire is to resist human nature itself. The man who achieves such mastery places reason above vanity. He asks not what others say of him, but what advantage their words serve. He understands that men praise not out of love for truth, but out of need, fear, or ambition. In seeing this, he frees himself from their chains, for he knows that admiration is no measure of greatness, and greatness needs no witness. The exploitation of this hidden vice, then, lies in the contrast between those who crave praise and the few who resist it. The multitude can be governed by offering them admiration, feeding their illusions until they act according to one's design. The rare man who is immune to such illusions cannot be governed, but he can govern others, for he sees the world without the haze of vanity. He can employ flattery as a tool without ever being its victim, bending others to his will while standing unmoved himself, for his worth is rooted not in what is said of him, but in what he seizes with his own hands.